We are all very much aware, when we look in the newspapers, read online, hear radio or television reports, of how many people have gone astray. meToo movement has heightened awareness from a lot of people of what has happened in our own generation, how people have abused their positions of power and strength and used it to harm others in so many ways. We are now more aware than we've ever been about how people in positions of power tell things that are not true. We have fact checkers who work for the news media who are quite good at showing when someone has gone wrong and why they said things that weren't true. They're always careful to say they said things that were not true. They don't actually say they lied, because lying indicates intent to lie, intent to mislead, giving the benefit of the doubt. And when we see all this going on in our world today, we say, where is our world going today? The reality is, the question should be, where is our world coming from? Because these things are not new. When I was first ordained, people in their 80s would tell me about what happened to them as children. So I know, I guess that's secondhand, that some of these horrible things have been going on for at least 120 years. And we can be pretty certain they went on long before that. Dostoyevsky wrote a book, Crime and Punishment. How many have read that book? Did you ever read it when you were in university or some other time? If you haven't read the book, have you seen Woody Allen's movie, Match Point? Nobody's seen the movie? My goodness. Okay, so the movie and the book are very much one and the same. In fact, I think Woody Allen has one of the characters in Match Point reading the book, Crime and Punishment, in case you missed it. The book is well worth reading, the movie is well worth seeing, and both those tell the tale of a person who thought he was above the law, who could do whatever he wanted because he was special. He didn't have to obey the rules and regulations that everybody else had to obey. He could do his own thing with impunity. And he could prove that by committing a murder. And that was what happened in a story that Dostoyevsky told back in 1865, 2 years before Canada became a country. So we know it's been going on at least that long. But then our readings today tell us, no, it's been going on much longer than that. It's been going on as long as we know. So there is King David breaking first the 7th commandment and then the 6th commandment. And you all know the commandments, right? We don't need to redo those right now. The 6th, do not kill. The 7th, do not commit adultery. And there was David breaking both those commandments. That's strange and odd. That's strange and odd because when we read, and we have been reading the rest of the story about King David in the last several weeks, he's one who seems to be way above most people in terms of righteousness. He was hunted and pursued by King Saul when David's heart was pure and only wanted to support the king. And twice in amazing circumstances, King Saul was within David's grasp. David could have killed him on either of those 2 times, but chose not to, because it would be wrong to sin against the Most High. I think maybe what happened with King David was that he wasn't where he was supposed to be. The passage begins in the spring, at the time when kings go off to war. David was on his rooftop. If he'd been off to war, this would never have happened. Or, well, how many of you have seen The Matrix? Okay, some have seen The Matrix. We're getting some. I believe it's in the second Matrix movie. It might have been in the first one. I have to watch those again. There's 3 of them, for those of you who don't know. Anyway, Neo, the hero, goes to visit the Oracle, who is an oracle, who tells the future. And he comes into her apartment, and she says, "Don't worry about the vase." So he turns to look at the vase and knocks it over and smashes it. She said, "I told you, don't worry about it." And she says, "What's really going to get you now is, would you have knocked that over if I had told you not to worry about it?" So, with King David, would he have committed that crime had he been building the temple? Remember last week we read in the passage where David thought, "I should build a temple for God." And so he said, "I'm going to build a temple for God." He said that to the prophet Nathan. Nathan said, "Go ahead." That night God came to Nathan and said, "No, no, no. David is not to build the temple." So, did David not build the temple because he was unworthy? Or did he become unworthy because he wasn't building the temple? Right? If he had been building the temple, he might not have sinned with Bathsheba. But maybe he sinned with Bathsheba, and that was going to happen, so God wouldn't let him build the temple. You got that? Sort of. It's tricky. It's complicated. That's the way it is with our lives, right? We don't know why we get into the things we get into. You try to unravel it, back it up, back it up, back it up to see where it all began. And with David, it all began wonderfully and beautifully, and he was an honest, upright, righteous, God-fearing, God-loving person whose only passion was to love and serve God. And we have so many songs attributed to David, which are heartfelt paeans of praise to God, wherein he sought to show God how much he loved him. There are also some songs that reflect, as Chris's solo did today, called David's Song, reflect upon his sin with Bathsheba. "Why art thou so heavy, O my soul?" was one of his songs. Again, what leads to what? Well, Nathan said, what's going to happen here is that the sword's never going to leave your house as a result of this. The next chapter, the baby dies. Very sadly. They had another child named Solomon who became the great king. But David had other children as well, because he had lots of other wives. I don't remember how many wives he had. His son Solomon had 300 wives and 700 concubines. David didn't have quite that many. But I know he had Abigail and Michal and Bathsheba as 3 of his prominent wives. He had a son named Amnon and a daughter named Tamar from 2 different mothers. Amnon, there's children present. Amnon did things he shouldn't have done to his sister against her will. And Absalom, Tamar's brother, full brother, ended Amnon's life. So that set David at odds against Absalom, who was his favorite son, actually, at this point. And David wanted Absalom to become the king after him. Absalom stole the kingship from David and drove him out of Jerusalem. And the prophecy that was in the passage that someone would lie with all of David's wives on the rooftop took place because of Absalom. Absalom did that. And David fled Jerusalem. Then Joab, the commander of his army, brought them back. They came in. They had a battle, and Absalom was killed. David said to his soldiers, his commanders, "Do not touch my son Absalom. Do not hurt him." They saw otherwise, and he died. And David experienced enormous sorrow. So here's the thing. Did all of that happen because of his sin or not? Which leads to what? Well, I think part of it was captured in Dostoyevsky's and Woody Allen's work of art. If someone thinks that they're above the law, that the rules don't apply to them, and then they can walk down a road where they can do one thing and another thing and another thing and another thing. And David, having committed those sins, introduced into his family a way of dealing with the world which is not righteous and not pure. And I imagine that David's children growing up, at least Amnon and Absalom, grew up thinking that they could do whatever they wanted to do. And they did whatever they wanted to do, which caused more trouble, bloodshed, and sorrow. Was it God's punishment on David? Or was it just what happens when you start to hurt other people? Well, you're all here today. We are all here today. Not because we want to be above the law. I think, I haven't noticed that amongst anybody. You can check a little more closely and see, but I think we're all here because we actually like to do things that are good and like to see people prosper. So then, are these stories for us? Well, it's always good to hear a cautionary tale, just in case we ever forget who we are and what we're doing. But it helps us to show the flip side, too. Because when you let a little bad thing into your life, and you exhibit a little bad thing, it can adversely affect others. When someone does a good thing for you, then that can have repercussions as well. Some years ago, when I was still building our house, before I retired, I was driving up late Sunday night, past some cars, and forgot to slow down after I passed them. It's okay to speed up to pass, I think, but you should slow down again. There was a police officer coming the other way. And so she turned around and pulled me over. And it was a really embarrassing moment. I don't do well with people telling me I've done something wrong. My hands were shaking. I couldn't find my registration. I know it's here somewhere. I know it's here somewhere. Really, I do. She said, calm down. I'm looking for it. And I went through all my cards 2 or 3 times. And she said, oh, you're a triathlete. I said, yeah. She said, maybe I'll see you at a race sometime. Okay? And then I can't remember whether she gave me a ticket or not. I kind of think she gave me a small one instead of what I really deserved. But I slowed down and kept to the speed limit. When I got to Miners Bay, there were cars all over the place. Big accident had taken place. And I thought, oh my God. She saved me. The police officer saved me by stopping me from ending up in all of this. Maybe, who knows, God knows, and maybe that's why I was where I was when I was. So sometimes a little bit of righteousness spreads out and has some good that goes farther and farther and farther. And she brought into my life a little bit of righteousness at just the right time and made my life longer. And certainly better. Sometimes, it takes a little bit for us to share, to give something to someone else. That story, beautiful story today of the feeding of the 5,000. If you were here last week, you remember I thought, why did we skip the gospel? The gospel last week was the gospel of Mark. We read part. Then we skipped the feeding of the 5,000 walking on the water and carried on with the rest. And I thought, why is that? Well, I guess because it was coming up this week from the Gospel of John. So, okay. I forgive now the writers of the lectionary. In that passage, Jesus takes 5 small barley loaves and 2 little fish that a little boy offers and feeds 5,000. Maybe we don't have much to offer. Maybe we can't change the world. But just like a bad thing can go out in ripples of nastiness, so can a good thing. Like a candle burning in the dark and light a building as big as this. One candle will let you see your way around this building at night. If you want to check that out, come some night, middle of the night, candle. I don't know, people may call the police on you, but anyway. One little good thing can spread out. And that's because when we bring the little bit we have, who we are, and offer them to Jesus, He can take them and multiply them and touch 5,000 people. Or as Linda pointed out to us this morning, 7.5 billion. Whatever we do interfaces with what everybody else does. And the grace that God gives to us when we share with others makes all the difference, literally, in the world. Good to hear the stories of David. Sad to hear him go off the rails. Glad that he sorted his life out after that and he ended his days in peace with God. Good to know that his desire was to come back to God. Good to know that what we have to offer to God, God can take and use and multiply and multiply and multiply. So don't hold back on your graciousness, your kindness, your openness. Don't hold back on your generosity of spirit. Let what you have touch the lives of others and trust God to multiply and take it even to the ends of the earth. Amen.